Tea culture originated in the legendary Shennong era. It has been passed down from generation to generation for thousands of years. They found that the traditional yin-yang philosophy was the best way to carry the generation of tea growing, preserving and brewing forward. Tea is known for its many health benefits. Yin and yang is about balance, and it's an important way to achieve harmony. In 2018, the forests of Fujian province reached a coverage of 67%. This ranked it number one in China, a position it's held for 40 years. Colourful and outstanding Fujian tea comes from the lush green forest and beautiful landscapes. Fujian is one of the most famous tea provinces in all of China, and it is one of the first teas to go abroad and influence the world. More than 1300 years ago, the port of Chengzhou was the largest port in the world for a period of 400 years. It was an important starting point and part of the maritime Silk Road. Travelling from Fujian to overseas, Fujian tea was taken across to Britain and Eurasia by businessmen. It was not only the transfer of tea, but it was also the fragrance of the soil and the taste of home. Britain has a long-standing tea culture, and it's no surprise that these traditions made their way to Australian shores. In the 1950s, Australia's own tea growing industry began to thrive. Tasmania, the southern part of Australia, also caught on to the tea culture, and over time has started to grow tea since the mid-1990s. A perfect pot of tea is based on perfect time, place and people. Today, let's follow the footsteps of our tea master to understand the complex and the elaborate production technology that's involved in tea making. You will be able to appreciate the charm that tea brings to us all. About the first week of May, it becomes the period of picking and refining Fujian rock tea. Tea pickers enter Mount Wuyi to collect tea about this time and work tirelessly as they work through the tea gardens, which are often far away from their home, and they're hard to travel to sometimes. Workers will pluck the tea all day long. Rock tea has the most complicated process in all of the tea production processes. There are nearly 20 processes, from the beginning of picking the tea to the completion of packing and refining the tea. Tea masters depend on the change of the day, the weather and the conditions and the tea leaves to make sure that they have the quality control that they need. If it rains, it is often harder to make the tea. Gordon and Jane Brown's tea farm in Allens Rivulet is not far from Hobart, Tasmania, and it is the southernmost tea farm in the world. The cool, temperate climate perfectly suits Camellia sinensis, which can produce both green and black tea. Because the Browns are the only commercial tea growers in Tasmania, they've had to have a creative approach and look for equipment that they could use efficiently and effectively for processing. They start to harvest in the middle of November each year, and that turns into around about 250 kilos of dried tea leaf each year.
Tasmania was such a mild climate, it's like that all year. So every harvest here tends to be extremely good quality. Fijian tea is a very different style of tea. It's a lot of hand harvesting, a lot of work, and we've got the machine harvesting type of approach, and so every time you taste a tea, if it's a different grower, it'll have a totally different flavour. And that's part of the fun of tea, is that every area needs to have its own distinct flavour. Melding together the two cultures, I'll call it, is just part of the whole thing about how we need to be friends and enjoy a good cup of tea and a lovely chat.
I think we potentially can make some sort of blended tea, use green tea and Fujian green tea and probably Tasmanian white tea to create some sort of unique texture and unique taste.
Yeah, well, I think it looks like a very beautiful place to visit, and I'd love to go there one day. I particularly want to try the oolong tea. The rock tea looked amazing, very different to our process, but yeah, very interesting to try and see the difference.
I think tea is wonderful because you can sit down and enjoy a good companionship. So what we need between the two provinces or the two areas is love and friendship.
Well, firstly, I suppose happy anniversary. It's really exciting to have been partnered for 40 years, and we look forward to a good relationship going forward.
As a Fujianese live in Tasmania, and of course I hope this friendship between Tasmania and Fujian province goes on and on forever.
As tea makers need patience and skills. They move with the time and make tea based upon the conditions of the land and the environment in which they're working. Transforming one leaf of tea into 10,000 flavours to ensure it leaves a fragrant and lasting impression on us all. Tea has become a bond of peace, friendship and cooperation all over the world, and it is an important cultural tradition for us to continue and share with the next generation. We believe Fujian and tea from Tasmania and the friendship that we have created will go forward into the future for another 40 years.